BC's favorite senior lifestyle magazine comes to life. Join us as Senior Living goes on location to bring you the inspiring, informative, and entertaining adventure-filled stories of seniors in your community. Senior Living on location, changing the definition of aging, celebrating seniors living life to its fullest. Join Senior Living on location as we visit with photography legend Ted Grant and introduce you to a barrel-loving artist with a signature twist. But first, we begin with a group of senior entertainers who've chosen busking as their way of life.
I'm proud to be a busker on the causeway.
Street performing, or busking, is a centuries-old tradition dating back to times when wandering minstrels and bards traveled from place to place. There have been entertainers performing in public arenas for tips in every major culture in the world, dating back to antiquity. Now, 73-year-old Ian Bennett doesn't quite go back that far, but still far enough.
There weren't a lot of buskers when I first started busking. In fact, there were none where I was. Although in Paris, a few Americans and Canadians, guys, adventurous guys and girls came over with the guitars, and we had about 10 in the end. So that was then. The busking scene it's absolutely incredible. I came to Victoria to visit my brother who lives here, and I heard the buskers down here, and they weren't being arrested, they weren't being fined, they weren't being thrown out of town. In fact, you have to pass an audition and pay a license, so they actually wanted me to sing.
Ian Bennett is originally from England. Ian and his brother Jonathan were known as the Bennett brothers in the music scene. They both started busking in the late 1950s, playing in Paris, France, and New York City's Greenwich Village. Ian even has ties to the British skiffle scene through his other brother Les, who played guitar with Lonnie Donegan's band. Ian and his brother perform a mix of skiffle, blues, country, and folk on the Causeway in Victoria, BC today.
Through the years, I was in bands, rock and roll, singer-songwriter, solo. In that level of bars and clubs that nobody knows about but sees in movies, and you never get famous or make any records, but we did make several records in France, my brother and I, because we knew the three chords and the French didn't.
Busking is typically thought of as something young, determined, energetic performers do to get recognized and make a seasonal living. But that's not the case here. There are many senior buskers who have demonstrated the fact that busking is actually a long-term, sustainable lifestyle for some musicians and entertainers.
Thank you. It's an old American folk tune from back about 1849, and I remember it like it was yesterday.
56-year-old Dave Ryerson, or Country Dave as he'd like to be known, is a fixture along the Victoria Inner Harbor. He's been performing for 25 years now and can't think of anything else he'd rather do.
If I won the lottery today, I'd be back out here busking tomorrow because I enjoy it that much.
In the past, busking has had negative connotations associated with it because people try begging for money under the guise of busking. Busking, in reality, is a live street performance which involves taking a refined skill or art to the street and sharing it with others, while contributing to the urban landscape in a positive and meaningful way. And busking can be done through a multitude of mediums.
Yeah, there's a negative connotation to it still, I would say, in a lot of people's minds. Some people think that we're just basically beggars with the instruments. I don't look at it that way at all, or I still wouldn't be doing it after all these years. I see myself as bringing happiness and joy into quite a sterile environment for the most part.
David Harris is another fixture on the Causeway. For the past 30-plus years, this singer-songwriter performs his repertoire of blues songs using just about every instrument imaginable.
Yeah, I'm a one-man band. It's a long-standing tradition. It's been in existence since at least the 1700s or so. I play drums with my feet. I play a foot-operated bass with one foot. I play violin. I play guitar, harmonica in the rack, mandolin, banjo. Basically that.
And don't be fooled, not just anyone can busker these days. Rules have changed, and Dave Harris can attest to that. He's been playing the Causeway for the past 30-plus years.
When I first started, it was a free-for-all, and that had some charms. People that were passing through town could just play. They didn't have to worry about being told they couldn't do it. Now, if you want to be a busker in Victoria, you have to go to City Hall and get a license to play up on the street, or you have to go to the Greater Victoria Harbour Authority and get the Lower Causeway license, which costs about $200 for the year. And there's an audition that happens in April, and it's quite organized, you know, which has its good things too. In the old days, we'd have to wait to play sometimes. If you went to a spot and that was a prime spot, a spot that people liked, and there was somebody already playing, well, you had to wait till they were finished. Now we have a schedule meeting every week, and so we pick spots, and we know that we're going to be playing at certain times. So there's good and bad to both sides.
The Greater Victoria Harbour Authority encourages busking, especially when artists promote their own original works of art and or music.
When your hairline disappears, it starts sprouting in your ears. You've been sniveling in your beers, and you bore your wife to tears. Son, you've been riding on those trains too long. Fancy picking here.
I started writing about, I think I was about 49, about 1990, 89 or 90. And I learned thousands of songs over the years, and there was nothing new in the radio that I really wanted to learn. It was kind of except for maybe Mark Knopfler tunes or something. So I wanted to kind of get into new material, so I started writing my own stuff, and for a while wrote about 35 or 40 tunes.
I've played the bars, I've done the bar scene. I worked full-time in the bars for a long time, and this is much better from an artistic standpoint. Just the whole spectrum of the population, as opposed to the sort of the demographic you get in a bar. People are there to drink, they're not necessarily there for the music a lot of times.
In fact, you'll notice many of the senior buskers we've spoken to have their own CDs featuring their original works. Both locals and tourists seem to eat this scene up as they gather to enjoy the local flavor Victoria has to offer. Some locals enjoy the scene so much they couldn't resist showing off their talents when they saw the senior living on location cameras.
This is a song I wrote titled "Age is Just a Number You See," and it goes something like this. Hey, that age-old adage is real. You're as old or as young as you feel.
You could say Ted Zapp enjoys to rap. We can't guarantee he'll be here when you visit, but we can guarantee the talented pool we've featured. Downtown Victoria is well known for its artistic busker scene, especially along the inner harbor. In Victoria, there are a handful of senior buskers who make a respectable living performing and entertaining downtown in the late spring, summer, and early fall months. Most of these buskers are real characters who have extensive musical talents and a long history in the busking community. And sometimes you'll be treated to an aspiring wannabe busker.
'Cause age is just a number, age is just a number, age is just a number you see. Oh yeah. Woo!
Senior Living on Location is produced by Senior Living Media, celebrating seniors in our community.
He's 82 years of age, and he still continues to pursue his passion for photography. We can even go out on a limb here and say this man is perhaps Canada's premier living photographer, who currently resides in Victoria, BC. He is Ted Grant. Perhaps the name doesn't ring a bell, but maybe his work might. Ted Grant is the award-winning photographer behind the famous images of Pierre Trudeau.
Well, what happened there, quite frankly, when I am shooting, say, we'll call it a personality, I try to stay as close as I can within security limits. I started down the stairs ahead of Prime Minister Trudeau, and then I heard people starting to laugh, and I turned around, there he was, the camera came up like this, I did a quick focus, click, that was it. I got 2 more frames away. Those were throwaways. He was already nearly on top of me, so I ran down the stairs outside. Meanwhile, all the other media people, they're going crazy because they're outside and they see me, the only photographer who got that photograph.
His career spans more than 6 decades as a photojournalist, capturing news, sporting events, and important people throughout the world for Canada's newspapers and magazines.
I always had a feeling for photography from even when I was a little kid. So when Irene and I got married on October 15th, 1949, our birthdays, the next birthday in 1950, and hers May 25th, mine May 27th, she said, "What would you like for your birthday?" And I said, "I would like a camera." And so she did. She bought me a little 35 millimeter, today we might call it a point and shoot kind of camera. But really it was a plastic box with a little lens on it in those days. And away I went. And on September the 17th, 1951, my first picture was published in the Ottawa Citizen, and it had Ted Grant under it, and that was the beginning. Right there, I knew that I wanted to be a photographer, period. That was it.
Throughout his career, Ted has added a few other elements to his illustrious vocation. He's not just a photojournalist, but author and international lecturer as well, and he's still active in these areas, even today. We asked, what is it that makes him so special, or at least his pictures?
When I'm shooting something, I don't do any analysis or anything else. I just simply go, "Oh, gee, look at that." Camera comes up, and I go like that, and that's it. There's no thought process in it. Mine always comes from my heart. Comes from my heart and my soul, and how I react and how I feel it in my tummy. And that's how it works. So many people, they begin to analyze, and then the moment is lost.
In 1991, Ted Grant was presented the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Canadian Association of Photographers and Artists in Communications. 4 years ago, the National Archives of Canada dedicated a compilation titled Ted Grant Photo Collection within its National Photographic Collection. Ted handed over 280,000 images, illustrating his unique understanding and vision of Canada's history. There are also another 100,000 images at the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa, making the total collected works by a single photographer the largest in Canadian history.
Oh, I was extremely honored. I mean, it was, and I never looked at it as in something big in that sense. I had my assignments. I had the good fortune that I did a lot of photography for the National Film Board, documentaries.
Ted is extremely passionate about photography and carries his camera with him everywhere he goes. He says digital photography has come 45 years too late, as he reminisces about his days lugging around thousands of rolls of film on international photo assignments. But there's one thing that has remained from the past that he practices in the present, and that is black and white photography.
Well, when you photograph people in color, you photograph their clothes. The color of the clothing, the surroundings, and what have you captures the eye. Will go to bright reds or whatever colors are brightest that goes there without actually looking at the content. Whereas when you shoot in black and white, you photograph their souls.
Ted Grant has published 8 books, 3 of them dedicated to the work of medical professionals. In 2003, Doctor's Work, The Legacy of Sir William Osler, was republished, followed in 2004 by Women in Medicine, a celebration of their work, co-authored with Sandy Carter. His inspiration for this venture came, well, let him tell you.
Unfortunately, in 1979, I had a situation called trigeminal neuralgia. That's where the nerves in the sides of your face go out of whack or whatever, and so I had to go in, and they were going to drill in through the back of my head here. And so while I'm lying on the table in the operating room and they are prepping me, I'm lying there going, "Oh my God, what a great place to shoot." Meanwhile, I am in just horrendous pain. I mean, I just almost want to die, but that was on my mind. There were the lights, the people doing things, and all this action going on. And when I got out and I could finally get back to properly shooting and seeing it properly, the surgeon who operated on me, I asked him if I could spend a week with him just to document what he and his team did. So he said, "Oh, sure, Ted, great, anytime." So I spent a week with him. And it was like that was the beginning.
He said that being in the operating room didn't bother him in the least. In fact, he found it fascinating. The only images that make him break down, though.
I've seen lots of things. I have photographed quite a number of babies being born. I cry every time.
In fact, some of the photographs in the medical books include pictures of his grandchildren being born. At 82, Ted is as active as ever. He's currently doing the photography for an ongoing column in the Homes and Living section of the Times Colonist. Not only that, he's also working on updating a book, the title, still a work in progress, Victoria as I See It. We won't mention that he also works out with a personal trainer. Ted Grant continues to work and take photos for fun. He doesn't consider photography to be work and lives for it.
I'm only in my 83rd year, and I expect to go on for a long time yet.
Senior Living on Location is produced by Senior Living Media, celebrating seniors in our community.
Looking at a barrel may not bring much excitement to most, but to this man, it's a canvas.
This is where it all happens.
Peter Forbes is a young senior with a unique craft. He's one of 3 barrel carvers in North America, and the only one in Canada. An artist his entire life, Peter spent more time in high school drawing on his textbooks than reading them. While art has always been his life's passion, creating a living for himself has led down a number of different roads. A true adventurer and entrepreneur, Peter has done everything from traveling the world and working on a boat to working for a sign manufacturing company in North Vancouver, creating handcrafted signs. But it was his divorce that led him to his destiny. Instead of hitting the bottom of the barrel, he had an epiphany and decided to carve them instead.
So I had to come up with something different, so I was just waiting for something to hit me. And I'm looking through a trade magazine, and I saw a carved barrel that somebody had done, a one-of. And it was an epiphany, you know, it was just this magic moment. It just went, that's it. And so then I had to teach myself how to do it, because there's no barrel carving school out there.
His clients always said he was talented enough to go out on his own. But Peter was wise enough to know that unless he had a unique product to offer, that he could not compete with the larger companies.
And I always tell people, if you want to be an entrepreneur, do something unique. Don't be competing against someone who's been in the business for 30 years and has a $1 million shop. Been a dream of mine for many years is to have my own workshop where I can create what I want to create. So eventually the next stage, you'll even go beyond just doing barrels and just making all kinds of crazy creations. I love working with different wood. I like working with driftwood, but all different kinds of materials. And I have an overactive imagination. People ask me, well, gee, how do you come up with the ideas? And my problem is I come up with too many ideas.
Using the internet as his main source of marketing, Peter has a global company and says he hasn't actually met most of his clients. He focuses mainly on carving custom signs for businesses, wineries, and wealthy wine connoisseurs.
I do signs, custom-made signs for a living, and I do the barrels. But the barrels are more fun. They're more right between making the custom signs and doing whatever I want to make, so they're kind of in the middle. And most clients allow me to do my own design because they just say, I don't have a clue. In fact, the next one I'm be doing, it's like taking a bag of ingredients and rolling them out and say, okay, and I'll make something out of this. I have to use a redback spider, entrance of a mine, and gold. And for the client, these things all mean something special. And I have to somehow make something out of that for their wine cellar. So it's going to be a real challenge to make something that doesn't look like it's for Halloween.
While Peter keeps busy full-time with his booming business, he claims he's pretty much retired. But as they say, retirement is doing what you love, so he carves away a full day's work. Peter believes the older he gets, the more confident he is as a craftsman. When he first started, he wondered if he could actually do some of the designs his clients wanted. He did so well, in fact, that his clientele list has expanded to include some pretty impressive names.
The most famous one would be Ringo Starr. And he started a small wine store in upstate New York, I believe, somewhere. And it's called the Angel Share. And the Angel Share is when you open a bottle of wine and the part that evaporates is called the Angel Share. So they basically said, do something with that. And so I did one with an angel with a bottle of wine in its hand that has fallen backwards and crashed into these grapes. And there's this a ribbon wrapped around its legs. It got wrapped up in this big ribbon that goes around the barrel and in the grapes. And on their ribbon it says Angel Share. So that was fun. I'd had to carve about 3,000 little grapes, but I'm used to carving grapes, I tell you.
Peter seems to have a constant muse around, since his inspiration pops up pretty much everywhere he seems to go.
I was up in the Horseshoe Bay and they knocked this tree down and there was all these sections lying there, and I walked by and I just saw this and I opened the trunk. You know. Okay, and then I got this interesting piece here, which is was inspired by going offshore, and this is a floating piano. And this was from one piece of first growth center core yellow cedar. And if you look at you can tell the age. Everybody knows you can count the rings in a tree to tell the age. The rings are so old, the rings are so tight you can hardly see them. So this is from a very, very, very old tree. Basically, this wood is like ivory.
Peter intends to barrel carve and work on signs until he's physically no longer able. Once he's forced to slow down, he actually hopes to write. Until then, this happy-go-lucky senior entrepreneur has just one single piece of advice to those about to retire.
Get a hobby, damn it.
Senior Living on Location is brought to you by Coast to Coast Provinces Plan and 495+. Senior Living on Location is produced by Senior Living Media, celebrating seniors in our community.
Do you have a great story idea about seniors living life to the fullest? Senior Living would love to hear from you. Your inspiring story idea could be featured in an upcoming episode on Senior Living on Location or in our monthly BC-wide Senior Living Lifestyle magazine. To send us your idea, visit our website at seniorlivingmag.com. and follow the links to our Contact Us page, or simply email us at production@seniorlivingmag.com.